I'm just going to record anyway.
Okay.
Hello, families. Welcome. You guys are on mute, just so you know. I'm so glad you're all here. It's nice to see some of your faces. We had 95 people say maybe they would show up. So we have a kind of structured time, but I'll go through what our plan is, and then I'm going to try to leave us some time for just you who are here if you have questions. But we've set it up so that we can do some sort of like review, address some questions that have come into us, and then make sure that we have time for you to give us your questions. I am leading this, and Amos, our counselor, is sort of the moderator, so he's going to be checking the chat. And if you know how to chat, you have full access to chat right now. And that means that you can say hi to each other. And then you can also put in any extra questions that come up. And we're saving some time at the end to process what your questions are. But hi, you guys. Hi, families. So nice to see you. Okay. We are going to start our meeting, but here's some housekeeping. One is that you're on mute by default, so that we can process through until we get to the time of question and answer. So you're on mute, but please use the chat, talk to each other, and also ask your questions there. We're able to save the chat, and so we can take any questions if we're not able to address them. And we will be able to find another time to answer those questions or answer people's questions directly afterwards. Welcome everybody as you come in.
Hi.
Hi. This is our first sort of fireside chat opportunity to kind of give some clarity around distance learning and what's happening, and try to answer your questions and collect your questions. So you're on mute, use the chat. So if you have any difficulties right now, or if you have any difficulties at any time, if it's a specific tech difficulty, we have a tech email that you can email, tech@IVA Long Beach. But if it's any question about anything in general, our info@IVA Long Beach has 5 staff members that answer that. And so it has a much better turnaround than if you were to, for example, just email the principal. You would get a much better response if you're emailing the info@IVA. Welcome, everybody. We are going to spend our time giving some overview, and then we will have time for questions also towards the end. Before we begin, I do want to say that this is being recorded. So if you don't like the idea that your face wouldn't show up, only the speaker's face, but we just want to make sure that this is available for other people who weren't able to be here. Again, put your questions on chat, say hi to each other in the chat, constant questions. And Amos Michele, our counselor, is going to start us off with a poll. So let's see how this goes. I just want to emphasize, if it is frustrating, don't do it. That's what we're trying to tell our students. All these little tricky technical things, when they become frustrating, just drop them. And Mr. Michele, let me know. We'll take our poll and then share the results, but I'm not able to see our poll. So let us know when it's time, how much time left we should have.
I think the poll is open right now. If anyone can see it, it should be.
Yay,
okay.
Thank you.
I'll give about 20 more seconds, and then I'll close the poll.
Welcome, welcome, those of you who are joining us. We are doing housekeeping and saying hello.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll. I don't see any feedback. I wonder.
Are you able to share the results?
Don't see any feedback yet. I think I'm having technical difficulties on my end, but we can return to it once I get it
Okay.
back. So.
Okay. Well, if you have technical difficulties, we have an email set up for it, tech@IVA Long Beach.
I'll reach out.
But I'll just keep moving on. I'm glad you guys are here today. Okay. So I had a parent last week ask about Zoom and if we were putting protections in place. And so I just want to say this: there's so much technology that we're dealing with, and in the first week that we opened up the learning opportunities, before it was distance learning, whatever all these terms mean and everything behind them, we had one of our students invite their friends to one of our class sessions, and they came in with some pretty naughty names. And that was our first experience of Zoom bombing. And ever since then, we have relied on these subscriptions. So we have additional subscriptions to protect student privacy, and we have not had any other experiences of Zoom bombing. Teachers are all of the time learning, should we have videos on or off, based on how students are able to handle all the responsibility that comes with sort of the technology. So it's different for all of teachers if there's video or if there's chat, as they're trying to navigate through this. But our students are safe and protected because, especially if they log in with their IVA email, they're in a secure system. If you have questions about that, go ahead and put them in the chat, but I'll keep going until Mr. Michele stops me. Last week, there were about 95 families that were able to complete a survey, and I really appreciate that extra time that people put in. Our students also, we had about 150 of our students complete the survey. And the results are really interesting. And again, I understand that the people who completed the survey have a certain level of tech savviness. So I think that our true results might be a little skewed. But what we got from the survey is that about 83 of both parents and students are saying that there's an appropriate level of academic challenge. There's a lot of questions for me about what does that actually mean, but the results of I feel like I'm getting the appropriate amount of academic support for students was slightly lower, and for parents it was about the same. Overall, based on the feedback that we got from students and parents as they were typing in responses, it seems that mostly students are feeling overwhelmed. That's not too much of a surprise. I think this entire time is a time of feeling overwhelmed. But students are requesting that things are very clear, there's a simplicity of assignments, and they're requesting more time. Which again, I think we all want. They also, in response to the social and emotional, the overall results is that what feels like the best support in the classroom as it is for social and emotional is sometimes the Zoom discussions. In social science, students are saying that the COVID-19 journals are really helpful for them to feel supported socially, which is, it's really interesting the way that they're interacting with that and commenting on it. And they're also saying, and parents as well, that the one-on-one personal touch from the teacher, the notes, the emails, the Zoom meetings that teachers are scheduling with students one-on-one is some of the greatest support. And so I wanted to say to you families, please don't hesitate to reach out to teachers if you have a need. And we also have Mr. Michele as our counselor and Diana Passetti as our intervention coordinator, who are trying to work with students and help them not feel overwhelmed. And everyone, I think, is looking for ways to reduce the pressure. So that is something that we're really aware of. We have been thinking about this time as sort of a temporary time to learn a whole bunch of new ways of interacting online when we can't be in person. And we don't know what's going to happen for next year. We don't know what the health department will say about returning to school, what sort of hybrid situation. And so we are thinking that this is a good time to just learn the skills. That we really don't want students to feel overwhelmed. So this is that time to feel the right way, the right amount of being able to handle all of this different online situation. We have Mr. Michele and Ms. Bassetti who are following up. So if your child is experiencing things and feeling overwhelmed, either reach out to teachers, which is really helpful, or also reach out to them. We're trying to continue to adjust so that we can support individual students. There is some clarity on distance learning, and then I'll talk about the credit note or pass no pass decision. But in our parent survey, there were a couple questions on just how distance learning works. And I had to read into some of the questions, so I'm just going to do my best here. But one parent asked, is this real class lecture time or office hours? Which I think is a great question. Our teachers have class sessions only 3 days a week and only until 11:15. So the most of the responses from students, parents, and teachers is that if this was school for real, if this was education replacing what we're trying to do at school, that we would have a lot more time in class sessions. But I want to say that we are not going to increase that time for the last 5 weeks of school. We are going to try to have depth and quality with the limited amount of education that we're able to provide, and learn from what's happening. So these class sessions, each teacher uses them a little bit differently, but some teachers are trying to use just that 45 minutes, which is never enough, to learn something together as a community, to try to replicate what a classroom is like. And Mr. Michele, tell me if I need to go faster. Office hours is additional support. There are sometimes only 3 students in a teacher's office hours, and sometimes it's one-on-one. So this is like this protected time where a teacher is there for your child. I was also, just from me to you, and I guess for everyone who might look at this recording later, I was also talking with some teachers about how for some students and some families right now, for whatever else is going on in their lives, this is way too much. And I think it is okay for parents to say, you're going to just focus on these 2 classes. That's all. But if that's not where your child is, if you're like, my kid can do all 6, they need more, then I'm not saying that to you. But if your child is feeling completely overwhelmed, I want to say to those families, you help them decide what to prioritize and what to just let go of, because our mental health is the highest priority during this time. And our parents can do that, our families can do that in ways that we can't do that anymore, because we just don't have them with us. So we depend on you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, I think that's a great point. Students communicated that, like, just looking at the week at a glance could be a bit overwhelming. So a lot of my redirection has been to, okay, let's focus on today. Like, today is Monday. What are the 2 classes that you're going to? What grade level are you supposed to look at? What's the office hours that's available for today? And then, like, just it's literally like moment by moment. Sometimes we have to take it. So just in 2 cents.
I am really glad that you guys are all here, and I also believe that you as parents have more than ever discretion for your child's education during this time. Your discretion is the greatest thing to depend on. And if that discretion says, if that discretion says, no, you're going to do every single thing that's being assigned to you, okay, that's fine. But if that discretion says, like, we're going to limit it, then that needs to be the case. We also have our RSP teacher who is there to support students with IEPs. So another question was, what's the plan to increase curriculum workload and class time? And the answer is, none of those things are going to happen. We are not looking to increase right now. And I am saying that this is not ideal education. This is not actually replacing what's happening in school. This is sort of crisis, triage strategies. So if you feel like your child needs more, I think that's a question to reach out to teachers, but we are not trying to replicate what's happening. Also, this is part of the reason why for this semester, we are doing pass, no pass. If this was real school, we would do real grades. But we can't know what's happening in every child's circumstance. And so we have moved to pass, no pass to protect that for our students, so that parents and students have the ability to say, you know what, it's too much, or I do want you to shoot for that A in that class. Another question, pretty particular, but what grading adjustments and categories will there be for distance learning? And just teachers have autonomy to adjust the categories and are trying to communicate well with students. But anytime you feel like questions aren't being asked or it's unclear, please feel free to reach out to the teachers. Okay. Here's the big announcement. Yes, good.
Okay, so there's some questions that are coming on the chat. I don't know if we want to save it for now or you want to transition then get to the questions
Maybe
later.
I will just flip through the next couple slides and then we'll do the questions.
Okay.
Okay, so we are moving to pass, no pass as a school. At the beginning, I thought maybe people could just choose at the end of the semester what they want, because there are some students that are working really hard to earn their grades right now. And I just want to assure everyone, those grades are still in the grade book. So if ever those grades are allowed to be valid, they are there. They're being protected. But for everyone who's really, really stressing out, we are saying pass, no pass. You need to make decisions amongst yourselves how to do that. It does not mean that if your child does not pass, they stay in like 6th grade or they stay in 7th grade. Middle school, for better or worse, is everyone just keeps moving on, even if they fail everything. It's different than elementary school. High school, it's not the case. So high school is thinking about summer school, but IVA is not thinking about summer school, because there is no need to make up credits. That's not what we have to pay attention to in middle school, which I'm grateful for. Growth and development as a priority. And then that grades are set up to do no harm. It's the most confusing, like, philosophical question. Like, what does that actually mean, do no harm? Because how does a no pass do no harm? That's what we're trying to constantly talk about as a staff. But I do want to say that this is not going to be what happens next year. If next year when we come back to school we can't be in person, it's not the same situation. This is all a practice, a trial. And a future focused question I've got no idea about is, how is Long Beach Unified going to address the high school choice process, where they depend on 6th and 7th grade grades and test scores? So they're going to have to determine that. And as soon as they know, then we will communicate that with our families. One last thing I think is, I want to say, if you haven't seen the message from our teachers that was posted on Instagram, I wish families could see how empathetic and caring and thoughtful all of our teachers are, how much they care so much for each child. And I asked them to come and record a session where they just said what I hope you understand. And I think that our teachers represented our community well. And I want you to see that, just because I want you to know how much your child is cared for during this time, even though we can't be with them. And then this last slide, like, I feel like you guys could say better. Anything that I could say, how can parents help engage students in class sessions? I don't know, make sure they're awake at 9:30. If it helps them to have an organized space, help them get an organized space. Encourage office hours, help them prioritize. But seriously, I think parents, the best thing you could do is use your discretion to help them practice good mental health during this time. That is, okay, what questions can we process, Mr. Michele? And I think we have about 10 minutes till we sort of want to do some kind of a closure, but maybe this would be a good time.
Yeah, there was a question about 504 students, and getting support. And I let them know to reach out to me directly, and we'll schedule a time, as I'm the 504 case carrier. So if you do have a student with a 504 plan and you want to see about how they're doing during online learning and what supports we can put in place, send me an email and we can schedule a time. So that was one. There's a question about having the option to do grades versus pass, no pass. A similar one is about asking about pass, no pass going into high school, how that will affect eighth graders, and then another question was about the platform of meeting with students, like Google Meet versus Zoom.
Oh.
And then there's one about how do we make up for lost learning. There's a lot of questions I just threw at you.
Yeah. How about the idea of, can they have the option for grades versus pass no pass, and the specific programs? So we will have, within most grade books, we still will have letter grades. So if your child is doing well and they're really shooting for the grades that show their depth of understanding, we still have that. We're just going to put on the report card, pass, no pass. But we have the ability to communicate with any school the students' letter grades. So we will have that flexibility. And although I can say, because there's pass, no pass, this semester is not going to impact their GPA, for better or worse. Unless Long Beach Unified changes what their plan is, and I know they've received a petition from a lot of families that people can opt for letter grades. Unless they change, we will just move forward with pass, no pass. But if they are going to allow petition for letter grades, I feel like we have that flexibility. We can make adjustments right away for our students. Did that answer your questions, or were there other questions related to that?
I think that may have been the main one. And then there's one about how do we make up for any lost learning?
Yeah, I think that
yeah.
The only subject that I would be more concerned about for lost learning is math. Math is a very different subject than all the rest of the subjects. In math, the concepts build on top of each other. I think in almost every other subject, the concepts like spiral, like you can be writing and get better in writing no matter what class you're in or what. But math is one of those. Although I would say I don't feel like families need to take on the pressure of trying to recoup lost learning, even for math. Across the district, across the state, across the nation, everyone is going to know that the content during that amount of time, we're all going to assume it just wasn't learned. So there's going to be a lot more empathy and check for understanding and rebuilding of skills as the new semester begins. So if I don't know what I might not be. Oh, good. Lori made a comment there also. Lori, thank you. As a teacher, also, you know that like we're all going to be aware of what students don't have under their belt. One thing, if anybody is a 7th grade parent, one thing to note is that we did decide, I don't know if it was communicated to you, but we did decide to have the sexual health and education unit not done in online learning. We thought it would be better to have kids together in a room because they're giggly and we try to get them to say penis. You know, it's the scientific word, but I don't know if we really even know how to navigate that in an online situation. So we're just gonna hold off that curriculum. Otherwise, I think that we'll support and understand that a lot of curriculum just wasn't soaked in to the extent that it could be if we were in person. Are there other questions about, I want to say that's not a satisfactory answer. Like, this is not a satisfactory time. I don't think that we're going to feel satisfied. I guess unless you feel like your family really got a chance to connect and their mental health is protected. Otherwise, just the learning is difficult right now.
We have 5 minutes left, Jackie. You want to save time for our checkout process?
Yeah, thank you.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah, thank you.
Nathan Leavenworth's mom.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I don't know how many families are in our situation, but it's a little different for us because we need to keep up in order to keep Nathan at a, at a place where, I mean, we can't wait, we can't say, oh, okay, you'll learn that next year for him. It has to keep
Good.
going. So we've been taking um, the homework very seriously. We still have our tutor working with us 4 days a week for a couple hours a day. And in a few areas, yes, to raise his grade, for instance, in math. But we sort of feel it's essential to keep up the pressure, so to speak. But uh, so the pass fail thing for me was very disheartening because
you're working so hard to have
yeah,
him learn. I
yeah,
know. Yes.
yeah, and it's a great time for him to make up ground on math, and I think he has.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's just, my point is this, that it's disheartening because I think it was a real opportunity for Nathan to catch up a little bit,
Yeah.
and for the idea that I guess we could just take from it what we want to take from it.
Yeah.
Uh, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. I know. And I agree. And I don't know how to really interpret the 83% of students and parents that say this is the appropriate academic. So I don't know. Does that mean like, okay, this is working, we've got it? I don't know what that means, but for all of you who have devoted yourself to make sure that this is a valuable time for your child, I'm sorry for the disappointments. The letter grades are still there. We just are not putting them on the report card as that letter grade, but the letter grades are still there. Like our math teachers especially said, I don't want to start doing assignments as pass fail because I want them to know how well they're understanding the content. So I hear your disappointment, and I share it with you and with all of the students who are trying so hard. I don't want to say don't try. The work that teachers are giving is not valuable. That is not what I mean. I do think the work that they're giving is intended to be very valuable. But for those families who are feeling overwhelmed or students who are feeling overwhelmed, I want you to use your discretion about how you use that time. I think it will be nice for us in our last 2 minutes if you can just type into the chat. I think that families really appreciate hearing other families' ideas. So if you could just finish one of these 3 phrases and type it into the chat, like what I want my child to understand about this time, or what I am clear about right now from what you've heard in this meeting, or what I'm grateful for, any of those will help us process, and we'll read off a few of those. Also, if there's questions that haven't been answered, throw them in that chat. We appreciate your feedback. So keep typing in, and Mr. McKelly and I will just sort of read your comments. I'll start on Lori's thought before this closing session, but one comment is that a letter grade does not need to be the most important right now. It could be about the learning. So to whatever extent the letter grade helps you show the depth of learning, pursue that, please. And Mr. McKelly, you want to read another comment?
I'm so sorry. I'm just seeing the last statement, but it says that we're all home together.
Yeah, I see. I'm grateful for the extra time with my family. I'm grateful for the flexibility being allowed. Grateful for our teachers and their continued feedback for each of the students. They are committed to feedback. Grateful for the consistency of class times and the teachers that reach out personally if they have a concern. How to cope with change is a lifelong lesson. Hear, hear. Oh my goodness. It's a huge lesson that we're all forced to learn or practice right now. I want my children to feel safe and supported. I'm grateful for Miss Gordon and the one-on-one time she spent with my daughter, for the accessibility of teachers. The schedule is working well, and I'm grateful for that. Grateful mostly for the extra time with teenagers, spending more time together. And again, mostly, that's wonderful. The most honest response, thank you. And the great communication from IVA to the families. If you have other questions, or if you were hoping for something different with this time, please let us know. We want to adjust everything that we're doing to serve our families well, and just make sure that we're taking care of our students to whatever extent we can. Thank you for your time here today. Send us your messages, and I hope you guys have a really a wonderful day. But we're signing out. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye. Bye, everybody. Have a good day. Jenny, I loved your comment. Thank you. Bye, Nicole. Bye, Liz. It's good to see you. And good to see your name also. And Karen. Bye, guys. And Miriam. Bye, Jenny. Oh, I miss you too. It's not the same online.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
I'm trying to hang up, so can you just maybe get me out?
I'm sorry.
I'll remove you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Okay. I think we are stopped. No, I'm gonna